The Panthers had another chance to clinch the NFC South, and whether you want to blame officiating, play calling, and the running game, they did not have enough to get the win today in Tampa, and now we wait.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday. That's your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I am live here at WCNC here in Uptown. We're in Charlotte as Panthers have dropped. I don't know. I'm kind of thrown off here, guys, to be honest with you. They lose 16-14. We know what happened. I don't even need to do all the pleasantries what I do at the beginning of the show. Panthers had an opportunity. They blew this game. I mean, did they blow the game? There's a lot of things we can point to, a lot of things we'll talk about. I did not really write down a ton of notes like I typically do before going live as I'm here at the WCNC offices, was doing a live reaction show on WCNC Plus. So thanks to all the folks who tuned into that. If you did, I put that link out on Twitter. But yeah, it's a tough one because you look back at this last month, it's the most fun it's been here in a while. The Panthers have not been playing this many consecutive games of importance since you go back to 2017 when they made the playoffs. You look at that game that they lost New Orleans and they came back at home and beat Minnesota, beat Green Bay, then clinched at home against Tampa. They had not played this many important games consecutively in 8 years. And I think that's shown over the course of this last month as they got a golden opportunity when Atlanta went on the road on Thursday Night Football and beat this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team there in Tampa. You had an opportunity where if you just beat a Saints team who had 3 wins, a Saints team that had beaten you after your biggest one of the season to date by beating Green Bay, had you beaten that one-loss Saints team, then you're not in this position that we're in right now. The Panthers are in rather right now. I didn't lose these games. I'm not in this position, but the position the Panthers are in at this point in time, had you taken care of business back against New Orleans, either of those times, we're not having this conversation. But even after losing that game, looking past the opponent, even though they're going to say, oh, we don't look past anybody. Yeah, you did. You looked past the Saints the first time, and it bit you in the ass. And you came back the next time. You knew what was at stake. You knew if you won that game, you came back home the next week in front of a ruckus Bank of America Stadium crowd, that you would have won the division with 2 weeks left to go. But they could not handle the success. They could not handle the stakes, and they lost to the Saints on that Sunday. The good thing was they had another lease in life, and they came out the next week and they won at home against the Bucs, who won the bigger wins that they've had. But then they knew the stakes going into that next week. Yes, you're going to play a much better Seattle Seahawks team that's 13-3, playing right now for a chance to be the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, and potentially a team you may see again if things work out your way on Sunday, and depending on the result of the game between Seattle and San Francisco. But you knew that there's a possibility of a Bucs team in free fall mode that they could lose to the Dolphins. And Dave Canales, they were focused on the game at hand against Seattle. They didn't want the scoreboard up there and all of that. And you had chances. Sam Darnold turned the ball over multiple times. You had an opportunity to have an interception on the first play of the game offensively for Seattle, and you did not take advantage of those opportunities. And then you got another chance today, and they did not take advantage of their opportunity. So now you leave it up to the Atlanta Falcons. So yeah, it's very frustrating to watch this team that clearly has grown from where we saw they were 2 years ago, where we saw they were the first half of last season, and how they finished that season a year ago back in 2024. They have gotten better. They have improved. They're on the right track. They're just not there. Even if they get the help and get into the playoffs, no one's going to kid themselves. This is not a team that is going to do anything when they get there. It's possible that if they get Seattle, a team that turns the ball over a ton, and with Sam Darnold, that maybe he has one of those games like he had it in the last season, and you win a game at home in front of a ruckus environment. It's certainly possible. You can't rule it out. But have they arrived to the point where they can win these kind of games? No. And they've shown time and time again. Against New Orleans, against Seattle, even though I kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt because that's a much better team than them. And then today against Tampa, a team that had lost 7 out of 8, 8 out of 10, they just can't rise to the occasion and win these games. I guess they won one a couple weeks ago. They've shown you they can beat the Rams. They can beat the Packers. A lot of that had more to do with the Rams and the Packers that Sunday than really Carolina, but they won those games. They've shown you that they're capable. But when push came to shove, you need to go out and execute on this Saturday, rain-soaked day in Tampa. They didn't get it done. And look, we'll talk about the officiating. That's not where I'm going to lead. I will be honest with you. I didn't have any audio, so I have no idea what exactly was going on. I've been texting people trying to get an understanding of what happened to go. No PI. That made no sense. We're going to talk about that. Don't worry. But I talked about this on Friday. I talked about this yesterday. Keys of victory. You got to recapture the run game. We hear all about the style of football they want to play, capturing that brand and whatever else Dave likes to use as his Dave-isms. They haven't done that since week 9. They have been one of the worst rushing offenses in the National Football League for the second half of the season. And they went out there in a game today, could not run the football. And I just don't know how you can expect to beat any passable team without being able to run the ball. And especially in a game where it's raining. It's raining. Like, you're not going to be able to have a lot of success in the pass game, which they actually did. Bryce Young was a bright spot. We'll talk about him later here on the show, but they couldn't run it. And it's just unacceptable that they've gotten to this point where for Rico, it's great. He gets $1 million bonus. He has over 1,350 yards total this season. He missed out on the other $250,000 by not getting a touchdown in this game. But by all accounts, he's had a great season. He's really done everything you wanted and probably more from him this year. But when it mattered most, you couldn't get anything. And is that all on Rico? Certainly not. The offensive line didn't do a great job getting a push today. Maybe they weren't allowed to do certain things they'd like to do, like pulling guards. We saw that Bucs have issues with that, just with the footing and the condition of the turf there at Raymond James Stadium. But you couldn't run the ball. And we heard from the very beginning when Dave Canales got here, they want to be stubborn about running the football, and they did not run the ball at all efficiently today. 1.4 yards per carry. 1.4 yards per carry in a do or die type of game, and that's all you can do. Chuba Hubbard, 5 carries, 10 yards. Rico Dowdle, 7 carries, 10 yards, only needed 7 yards. Great, got the yards. But 14 of 19, I mean, you threw it 35 times because you kind of had to, because you couldn't do anything else on the ground. Like, that's the one thing I point to first, is the inability to run the football. I give Bryce Young a lot of credit. I had talked about this going to that game last week in Seattle. You look at the stretch that he had against the Rams, against the Saints the second time, and then against Tampa the first time. That was the best 3-game stretch of his career, according to EPA per dropback. Then he goes out there last Sunday. Those are 54 yards, which had to do a double take. And I'm still looking at it and cannot believe that's what occurred last Sunday. He had one of his worst games of his career, but then he bounced back today, 24-35, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. And a dime to Tetairoa McMillan. I thought Bryce gave you what you needed out of the passing game, considering that they rarely ever throw for this many yards in a game. You got what you wanted out of your quarterback, but he got no run game. He got no support there. And it's not just a run game. And this is part of the issue, too, is when you can't run the ball, you can't stay on schedule, and you're so unsuccessful on early downs, it puts you in adverse situations on third down. And we talk about third down defense. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But they're 1 of 8 offensively on third down. You cannot win football games at this stage in the season against still a very capable opponent that we know has had fractures here the last 2 months of the season. You cannot win these games when you run the ball for 1.4 yards per carry, when you go 1 of 8 on third down, and then you can't get off the field defensively. Like, that's what cost you these games. And I think offensively, certainly that's what cost Carolina. What also cost him, look, and Bryce, he's not infallible in this game. He had the interception there before the half. That not a great throw, whether it was raining or not. That's a bad throw by Bryce, bad read by him, and that turns into 3 points. You can look at the scoreboard being 16-14 and say, well, right there, that's the difference. Julian Bryce let him down. Hell, man. I can't – I don't feel like that decision was in the galaxy of Dave Canales' decision to run a flea-flicker in plus territory. And it's not like a flea-flicker from like the 40 or from the 50, a flea-flicker from like the 20-something yard line of Tampa, when you're in position to at very least kick a field goal, if not score a touchdown, and be right back in it. They go flea-flicker. In the field conditions, which we've known since the first play of the game, that Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, for whatever reason, they went through warm-ups. They knew the conditions of the field, and they still had the wrong cleats on. For the life of me, I don't know how that happens. This isn't high school football where you wear your cleats like, oh, crap, this is not working. Let me go in the locker room and go change. Like that, you were in the NFL. The equipment managers, the players, someone has to get that right. That's JV type of crap that played out there early in the game. And maybe they didn't think it was going to be that bad. I don't know. But you knew from the first play of the game that the footing was not great for your running back. And then you ask him to run a flea-flicker where he's simulating as if he's going to run the ball. Then, of course, he slips trying to turn around and he fumbles. He tries to toss it back to Bryce, and then Tampa gets it. That is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen a coach in this organization do. Seriously, one of the dumbest play calls I have ever seen. And we were already going to have this conversation when the season ended about whether Dave needs to continue being a play caller in Carolina. I think that there could be some real benefit to getting an experienced play caller and not having him be the guy. Because look, he's the head coach and he's the play caller. We know from watching him in Tampa when they couldn't run the football to watching him here for 2 years in Carolina that he's not Sean McVay. He's not Kyle Shanahan. He is not Ben Johnson. You don't have that kind of play caller. And we're seeing across the league that one of the biggest competitive advantages on the football field on game days is not necessarily who's your quarterback and who's out wide and who's your on your defense on the edge. It's who is your offensive play caller. And the Panthers do not have a guy in Dave Canales who's a good enough offensive play caller who can week in and week out. And I get it. They beat the Rams and Sean McVay. They beat Matt LaFleur, who there's plenty of questions about him up in Green Bay. I understand all of that. He is not on that tier, and he's never going to be. So they need to find somebody else who can be, especially after that, because that's just unacceptable at that spot to have that dumb of a play call. And I wish this wasn't such a family show because there's so many more colorful words that I need to say about that situation than what I'm able to say. Also got to be professional, being a guy who gets to ask him questions, be in that locker room. But my God, what are we doing here, man? That was stupid. So yeah, Bryce had the bad interception, but that turnover, that play call, that's not on Rico. That's not on Bryce. That's on the head man who has shown you time and time again he's really not fit to be the play caller in Carolina. And they're going to need, he needs to address it. And I do not want David Tepper having to be the one who has to tell him, because we know that Tep is just a guy you don't want touching anything here in Carolina. But something's got to change. It's been 3 years, Dave. We've seen it. It ain't good enough. Because if you weren't the head coach, you'd probably be firing the guy who's calling plays when the offense rushes for 1.4 yards per attempt. You'd be firing the guy when your quarterback throws for 54 yards in a game. And when you're one of the worst rushing attacks in the NFL in the second half of the season, that guy, if he's just the OC, is losing his job. But he's the head coach. So we'll see if Dave Canales wants to fire himself and go get a real play caller. Because if he doesn't, well, you can't really trust that things are going to get better next season offensively, even with time and age and acquisitions, because you just don't have the right guy calling plays. Officiating was a disaster. We'll talk about that momentarily here on Locked On Panthers. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge, but Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right with high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night. The action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections, no drafts, no waiting. Just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on Prize Picks is quick and simple. The app is super easy to navigate. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, and while I'm live here, I know Dave Canales, as soon as I was going on, was speaking to the media. I didn't really want to tune in. I don't know if I'm going to tune in. I'm going to at least, let's see what. Okay, so everything is just all. Okay, so Joe Person of The Athletic has a video right now on his Twitter page, Joseph Person, and someone asked Dave about the flea flicker, and he says aggressive call. I mean, sure, it's aggressive. It's aggressive call, but at that spot in the field, knowing the conditions, like this is the thing about like analytics, and I'm not saying analytics is why he did this, but analytics don't take into account, is your running back healthy? Is this person out there on the field? Like, it's just, oh, wait, you're at that spot in the field, you got to go for it. That was a terrible decision by Dave. There's nothing that can explain it away. I know he's trying to, he's asked about it. Maybe, I don't know when we're going to talk to him again. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. Hopefully not. I mean, hopefully it's not going to be during the game tomorrow, because we got to sit there and watch that now, thanks to these guys' inability to close any of these games out over the last month of the season. But yeah, that was horrible. But officiating was also pretty bad. And again, I'm here at the TV station. We're doing a live stream. We're talking throughout the game. Thank you, everybody who tuned in during our watch party. And like my head was turned away from the screen whenever the Rico Dowdle situation happened. I texted my group chat of my friends, been like, what happened here? Because I'm guessing what had happened was it was just he threw it backwards. Rico didn't get it. Then he got tackled. But from my understanding, and you guys know, you saw it, that they blew it dead. And it was a 6-yard loss. How is that possible? How is it a fumble and then they blow it dead? Like, it's not like his forward progress was stopped. And I text Mike K, and I'm like, what happened? He said, very clearly a backwards pass immediately blew the whistle, could have easily gained 5 yards after the recovery. Like, what? And that comes right after they had that big play to T-Mac, which he had a couple of those in this game, and ton of credit to him, because I thought when you look at the season, and I'm sitting like in the same room I was on draft night, had they not taken him, they're not in this spot. Like he's a dude for you. Jalen Coker's a dude. XL made some plays in this game. You love to see that. I thought Tommy Tremble stepped up. I thought you got what you needed at the passing game. 266 yards. I know some of that's from the last play there where you're playing pitchy woo-woo and you have a zero shot of actually scoring. But still, you had success in the passing game. I think it was 234 before the drive at the end there, but you got what you needed at the passing game. But man, that was a horrible, horrible call that they can do that. And the NFL is going to apologize. That's not going to help at all for Carolina and how they feel right now in the result of the game. And I tell you, complaining officiating is loser behavior. It still is today, because that was a horrible decision by your coach. And it's not like you played clean football in this game. You couldn't run the ball. Like the Panthers did plenty on their own to lose this game, but that's a horrible call. You cannot be calling stuff like that. I don't know how, and it's not great for the NFL, not on ESPN, that keeps highlighting the line judge. It's his last game after 30 years as official. Well, he shouldn't have been officiating anymore, because clearly the man is not up to the task, as he did a terrible job. You have, what else happened? There was the T-Mac OPI. Holy hell. I have never, and maybe I have, when do you see that being called? When he's getting off of the line of scrimmage, press coverage, and he pushes guy aside. That 5 yards, there's contact. He's making a move, he's brushing a guy off. When have you ever seen someone throw an OPI on that when the guy catches the ball like 40 yards down the field? What? That was horrible. And I can see them. I could see Orlovsky and Riddick, and I'm sure those guys, I'm sure they never shut up, because those dudes are competing to see who can get the most words in when they do broadcast. Individually, I like the job that they do. Calling games, horrible. So actually happy I didn't have to listen to them today. But I'm sure they had to have thought that was terrible. And I looked at a lot of people like McAfee, whatever, Mike Golick Jr. I saw all these other NFL people, Robert Mays, talking about how bad the officiating was in this game. So when it's not just like fans, but it's like actual people just covering it who have really no vested interest at all in who wins this game, and honestly probably don't even want to watch the game, they just have to because they work in the NFL media, saying it's bad officiating, it's very clearly bad officiating. And that had a direct impact on that drive, to where then Carolina ends up having to punt after that. That's so bad. And that's one of the situations where I think it's the next drive where they're able to get down the field, and then Dave calls the terrible flea flicker call. But if you don't have that happen to you, I'm trying to find, because I have some notes I wrote down trying to get the sequencing correct, because I was in the third quarter, and yeah, And then it's the next one where they make the field goal, Tampa makes a field goal, and then Canales called. Yeah, so your next drive is a flea flicker. So they could not move the ball really in the first half at all. The only time they scored was off of that Christian Roseboom interception, which great play by him. And for him to step up, and I give a lot of credit to guys like Roseboom for stepping up. Bobby Brown, the third, goes down. Cam Jackson, he comes in, he gets that blocked field goal there to give the Panthers an opportunity where then they go down the field and score a touchdown. Like McMillan, Coker, even XL, Bryce, Tommy, Mitch, Jimmy, Horn, June. Like I gave a lot of those guys stepped up. They did what they needed to do. And I did see like they made the proper change defensively where they took Shaw Smith-Wade, who this guy was not up for this game. And they had Trevon Merrick out there instead in that big nickel with Lathan Ransom and Nick Scott on the back end at safety. Like there were guys who stepped up in this game, but the officiating was just so bad. And there's another one that happened. There was it was the play before that. It was a play before the OPI call where it's a blatant face. Like they ripped Tommy Tremble's helmet off. I don't know who it was on the Bucs, ripped his helmet off. Refs right there, no flag. That's unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct. It's something. It's a 15-yard penalty and a first down for the Panthers. It does not get called. And then you, on the next play, call an offensive pass interference on T-Mac when he's within that 5-yard zone and trying to fight for his position, and then he catches it 40 yards down the field. I usually, like when people complain, I tune it out, but like these are legit complaints. Like this was legitimately a poorly officiated game on certainly the Panther side. Buck side, I'm sure they missed some things too that I'm not necessarily keenly thinking about right now, but that's terrible. So you blame the run game, you blame the fact that you don't have a play caller at all, and you blame the officials as reasons why you lost this game. Another reason why you lost this game, you can't get off the field on third down. We talked about this yesterday. Week 16 in this game, Tampa was 8 of 14 on third down. Today, what were they? They were 8 of 14 again on third down, or 8 of 15, because I guess they didn't even try to get the third down on that one time. Well, they did when they punted. What was it good for? Well, that third down when they decided to do play action was smart. I was wondering, are you going to be chicken poop and decide to not go for it? You're just going to run the ball, or are you going to actually try to win the game? They decided, let's go win the game. But after that, I think that's when they punted. Yeah, they punted late. And so they were 8 of 15, but really like 8 of 14. I think there was another one where they didn't even really try. So like 8 of 13 when actually trying on third down. This has been one of the worst third down defenses in the NFL. And it's just like, we go back, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn and be like, I told you, like, I didn't really tell you. These are the things I was looking at going in the game. But we talked about get off the field on third down on Friday. They did not do that. We talked about finding the run game. They did not do that. We talked about Bryce Young rising to the occasion. He did that. Bryce is the only thing, other than the receivers as well, who stepped up in this game. But I didn't think the offensive line played well. I don't think the running backs really got a chance to do anything, whether it was wearing the wrong cleats or the offensive line not getting a push, or what the play call was from your play caller and head coach Dave Canales. But they failed to get off the field on third down. They failed to run the ball. And I mean, the turnover hurt them as well. But yeah, that's why we're sitting here talking about it right now. And now we wait. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payrolls for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposit save me hours every week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you the real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time. That's gusto.com/lockedonnfl. Well, the back door is still open. It is obviously disappointing, and I'm sure it's a melancholy locker room in there as for the third time in a month, they've blown an opportunity to either be right there and win the division or just to win the division straight up. Could have won it today. Could have won it last week on Sunday. Could have had it won had they just beaten the Saints. Here they are yet again in that spot. And my hope was, I said it after the Saints game that at that point in time, this team was not mature enough to win those kind of games with the kind of stakes that were there for them. And that was not to say that they could not eventually be that this season. As we have seen, that did not happen. And they still are not mature enough to win in those situations. They'll learn from it. They have like 12 rookies that they played this season. Bryce is going to be back next year. I honestly, and I'm sitting here, I'm not happy about the situation, obviously, being from this city, having grown up going to games there with my dad. I don't do this show as a fanboy. I do this show as a job and really as an honor, having been in from this city and having gone to those games and knowing what this team means to this community. I love doing this. But I'm kind of ticked off, man, because it's just ridiculous to be in this spot, to have people ready to celebrate. People went down to Tampa for this, man. And those flights were ridiculous. Thank you, American Airlines, for price gouging everyone in this city because you have us clipped by I can't say that, but man, come on. Could have been a party against Tampa back in week 16 had they just beat a bad Saints team. Could have been a party on Sunday against the Seahawks had they just got the interception there, not fumbled, not grabbed the face mask. Could have been a party. Could have been a party here tonight and in Tampa, whether they were down in St. Pete, in Ybor City, wherever else on the waterfront. Could have been a celebration. It might just be delayed, not denied till tomorrow. But yeah, it's frustrating. It sucks to watch because, I go in there and I talk to these guys, and look, I really haven't gone the last couple weeks. Throughout the week, it's been the holidays. I've been trying to take some time off. I got NASCAR, which I'm not working right now, and I got to go back to that job, unfortunately, come next week, which sucks. Hopefully no one who I work with listens to that, but that's how I feel. But I'm thinking let me take some time off, but also I don't really want to go in there because we've been asking them since week 7, week 8, why can't you win back-to-back games? Really, it's probably since week 11 it's been like that. We've been asking them, and they try to answer the question, can't answer it, because if they had the answer, they wouldn't have been doing what they've been doing. But eventually, of course, we saw that as they've now lost back-to-back games for the first time since weeks 1 and weeks 2, when they lost to the Jags and lost to the Cardinals on the road. But it's just what is it that they can say that matters? There's nothing they can say that really matters. They're like, oh, yeah, we're focused, going to take everything and do all this and blah, 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 blah. What are you going to do on Sundays? And what we've seen is when they've had a chance to clinch the division, they can't win. So what does it matter what they have to say? They've shown that in these situations, they can't get it done. And yeah, to make the playoffs, I'll work around my work schedule at NASCAR, and I'll go in there and listen to what they have to say, because obviously there'll be exuberance about getting that new lease on life yet again, because it would really be what they're like. They got their first life would have been after the 1-3 start. So they were dead after 1-3, and then Rico saved them. So then that was their second life. And then, they lost to Buffalo. So let's say after that, their third life. And then they lose to New Orleans. Now they're on to their fourth life. Then they beat Tampa. They lose to Seattle. It's their 6th, 7th life here. Cat only has 9 lives. So I guess this cat has a little bit more left, possibly. We'll see how it plays out tomorrow. And I know I said I wanted this to be winner take all. I did, because I wanted the stakes to be where either you got it done or you didn't. And if Atlanta wins tomorrow, which that's what has to happen, if the Saints win or tie, Carolina's out, Tampa's in. If the Falcons win, Carolina's in. And great that they have the opportunity. I don't want to sit here and have to watch this game again, because do they deserve to be in the playoffs? What does deserve have to do with anything about that? It has nothing to do with anything. Deserve, hell, we knew what the stakes were when the season began. We knew what the tiebreaker situation was. We knew that someone's going to have to represent the NFC South. And if Carolina representing the NFC South, even though they went from 8-7 with the division in their hands, 2 straight games where they won, they would have been in to 8-9, and then get in because of a 3-way tie, whatever. They earned it. That's what the rules are. You celebrate, you take that. You don't apologize if you're the Carolina Panthers and if you're a Panthers fan. Do not do that. Will it make it less exciting? I don't know. I'm sure we can spend all of next week because I promise you I'm going to do it. I can spend all next week if they're playing Seattle. If they're playing the Rams or somehow the 49ers, I ain't going to pretend. If they're playing the Seahawks because of who's on the other side and the opportunities that they missed out on, I can talk myself into that. I can talk you into that. The other two scenarios, I'm not going to do. And I'm going to, I guess I have to do it. I don't really have to do anything. Which I'm sure is why a lot of people don't like me, is because I don't tell you what you want to hear and act like a fanboy, which is fine. And that's why some people like me. With emphasis on some, where most hate me. But yeah, man, we'll see. I wanted the stakes just to be winner take home because personally, like, do they deserve that opportunity? But again, what does deserve have to do? If anything, they would have earned it. So let's see if they can earn it by way of the Falcons taking care of business for them. And of course, looking back at the games that Carolina ended up winning this season against Atlanta twice. And of course, winning back in week 16 against Tampa. If it doesn't work out for them, then you're going to have to rue the loss in week 2 against a terrible Cardinals team. You're going to have to, of course, rue not being able to beat the Saints either of those games. You're going to have to look back at the situation against Seattle on Sunday. Look back at this game and not being able to run the ball, the terrible play calling, missed opportunities, all has played out this year. So both Tampa and Carolina are deserving of being a playoff team, and certainly they were deserving of not being in the playoffs this year. One of them has to go. So we'll see how that plays out on Sunday, 1 o'clock. Yes, here in Charlotte and throughout the Carolinas. You look at the coverage map, Saints, Falcons going to be on Fox Station, where your Fox affiliate is, so you'll be able to watch the game. And I will be live afterwards reacting to whatever the result is. Either we'll be talking about how the Panthers blew it, or we'll be talking about how the Panthers blew it, but then they still got in. We'll see. But yeah, it's a melancholy Saturday here in Charlotte and in Tampa and wherever you may be across the world. And man, I hated the idea of having to work. I was excited because it's going to be on Saturday because I liked the fact that it was going to be a spotlight game for them, which I'm sure many people were concerned about. But I like the idea of potentially having a Sunday off. I'm going to have plenty of Sundays off going forward. But I was hoping that it could be a nice Saturday work, Sunday off, not even watch any football, granted, honestly, and then come back on Monday and get ready for a playoff game. Instead, going to be working on Sunday, which is fine because it means that the Panthers are still alive, and we'll see how that plays out for them in that game down in Mercedes-Benz. And was joking with somebody earlier this week. I was thinking about going to Tampa, as I mentioned to y'all. And I was thinking Nick Carboni of WCNC was saying, oh, well, maybe the game in Atlanta is probably the game next to go cover. And what do you know it is? And one of my friends who's a big Panthers fan, he said he knew maximum pain that they were going to, as soon as that game played out the way it did on Monday between the Rams and Falcons, that Carolina was going to lose this game. It was going to come down to Sunday. And damn it, was he right? Oh my God. Oh man. Okay. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else left to say. I want to see if I wrote anything else down as I'm just kind of bloviating. Yeah. Oh well, they lost. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all, subscribe or follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and over on Blue Sky, where the mailbag will be back at some point in time. Probably not Wednesday, whether they make the playoffs or not, but we'll be back at some point in time here later on here in January as we're in a new year. But as always, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And I keep pounding, y'all. You'll be fine. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I think dry January may have ended for some tonight. It's going to be all right. And I will talk to y'all, I guess, on Sunday, and we'll see what happens.